Hello and welcome to TradeUp Tuesday with me, Bettina Mensch, where I like to share things that I'm learning about how we can treat our planet a little more nicely. So today, I hate to pop your balloon. Well, actually, I don't. That's what we're going to talk about today, are balloons, because yesterday I took a walk on the beach in the morning and I came across a family that was having some sort of celebration because there were a whole bunch of balloons tied around the leg of a little tent that they were using. And there was a little guy who was holding one of those balloons happily until he opened up his chubby little hand and that balloon sailed away. And of course, there were a lot of tears involved and everybody looking up to the sky as that balloon drifted away. And I thought, well, where is that balloon going exactly? So I wanted to share with you some information that I learned about balloons. And of course, we know that they are part of the celebration of life, birthdays and anniversaries, special occasions, graduations, retirements, you name it. Balloons always seem to be part of the fun. And that's really great, except for what goes up must come down. And when it comes down, those balloons become food, unfortunately, for marine creatures like turtles and other kinds of fish and seals and different kinds of birds that mistake those beautiful, colorful strings that are attached and the balloons themselves as some type of food, and then they starve to death. And even on the ground, when they come down on the earth, they can be mistaken by other creatures, including even maybe your dog who is snuffling around and finds one under a bush somewhere and then eats it. It also, those balloons can come down into power lines, and especially the mylar balloons that are a metallic coated polyester can cause power outages and shortages. In fact, some power companies say that up to 20% of the outages are caused by balloons that have gotten tangled up in the wires. So there are two kinds of balloons. There are latex balloons, which we are pretty familiar with, that people fill with helium. And those balloons are called biodegradable, but in reality, they can take anywhere from a month to 4 years to degrade. And imagine the damage that they can do in that period of time. Even a matter of hours, they can wrap around the beak or the wings or the legs of some sort of a creature and cause it to drown or just become so entangled that they can't move. And if they're lasting for up to 4 years, that's really quite remarkable, as is an experiment that a group of kids did in England a few years back, where they released 300 helium balloons with notes inside, and they were hoping that whoever found the balloon would reach back out and tell them where that balloon fell. Well, one balloon fell over 10,000 miles away in Australia, and a little girl found it in her backyard and communicated with the boy who had released it. So that gives you an idea how long those balloons can be in our atmosphere, creating some kind of havoc. Now, the mylar balloons are not classified as biodegradable and shouldn't be released at all. And they are both dirty to produce and to the environment. It was reported that from 2008 to 2016, the Ocean Conservancy organization said almost 300,000 balloons were found along the US beaches. So that's sort of like 31,000 balloons are picked up along the beaches in the US a year, and that was just on the beaches. The Blue Ocean Society researchers have recorded debris from whale boats off the New England coast for the past 8 years. And in the past 5 years, balloons have become the most common debris that they have collected. So it's for this reason and any number of other reasons about the trash that accumulates because of balloons and other kinds of plastics that states, including but not limited to California, Connecticut, Florida, Tennessee, New York, Texas, and Virginia have passed legislation restricting the use of, or the release, I should say, of balloons that are not used in a scientific experiment. And I thought, oh, that's awesome. I'm in Florida, so I wonder what the law is in Florida. Well, it's really not all that restrictive. You're not allowed to release more than 10 balloons in a 24-hour period per person. So you get a group of people together, and I guess you'd be allowed to release more. Well, I thought that that was kind of a lame law until I read further and found out that there are those who are pushing to increase that limit to 100 helium balloons that could be released at a time as part of a funeral or a memorial service or a faith-based event. Well, 100 balloons, that's a whole lot of balloons. So, you know what? Cleaning up the beaches from balloons, and honestly, I've picked up balloons lots of times on the beach, and they always have a nice ribbon trailing from them. So cleaning up the beaches is only one aspect of it. Stopping the activity is another. And that maybe sounds a little bit Scrooge-ish, that we shouldn't be using balloons anymore, but they're bad for the environment. They're bad for the creatures. So what could we do instead? Well, there's lots of things that we can do to make life festive for occasions. There's things like reusable flags and banners and those funny little things that are blown up with the air that, you know, dip and dive in front of car dealerships. And I suppose you can have that at your house if you wanted to, and use that as something festive and fun. Doing things like those, like kites and garden spinners. They're fun. You can do things like making tissue paper pom-poms that can be reused. Certainly bubbles are a lot of fun, doing the giant bubbles. So if you're trying to have a kid's party where there's some festivity around it, instead of balloons, making bubbles, big, huge bubbles that the kids can actually get inside of because they're so large, that's a lot of fun. Or there are things like, instead of using balloons at a funeral or at some faith-based event, what about planting a tree in memoriam, or some kind of a beautiful flower bed, something like that, that is more long lasting and is colorful and means a lot as well. Drumming, that was a great solution that I had read about. Drumming is just a very spiritual kind of event, and rather than creating noise that is injurious to the eardrums of people and creatures like fireworks, drumming is very inclusive and very grounding and beautiful. So that's another idea. Now, maybe you've got an idea that you would share with us about what else can be used instead of balloons to create festivity. And I hope that you will join me in really thinking twice about using balloons in the future. And if you do that, or if you come across a balloon that you can dispose of, do think about clipping that ribbon down to smaller bits so that they don't get tangled around the feet of creatures, and also clipping the balloon itself so that it's not going to be something that is going to be a choking hazard to some kind of a creature. I appreciate you, and I hope that you'll think about other ways that we can celebrate without using balloons. Thanks for joining me today on Trade Up Tuesday with me, Bettina Mensch, and I hope to see you again soon without balloons. Thank you. Bye for now.